one of the things I wanted to look at was Castlevania Marble of Souls. This is unfortunately not an arcade game, really. It is a metal redemption game. If you ever seen one of those coin pusher games where you put the coins on the machine, that's basically what this is, where it pushes the coins down. But instead, in this case, it's marbles. So what happens is you go scan your card. I forget how much it is per play. It's 12 credits at my local one, and I think it was $25 for like 150 credits, maybe. I don't know for sure. So every time you put in 12 credits, you get some more marbles to shoot. And kind of the core goal is a couple different things on this. One is that you're generally just trying to push the marbles down so you can get more tickets. I don't really care about tickets, so that's not really a part of my interest level as much here. Or you can also push the marbles into these little holes that are there. You can see like there's these things that say spin there if you're looking at the video version of this podcast. And that basically plays the slot machine in the background. Richter whips the slot, and then he basically gives you some sort of bonus. That bonus is, the ability to get more shots, so you get more opportunities to shoot. It can also put marbles on the field. And another one that's a key thing here is that there's also something called a card drop. And a card drop basically takes a playing card, or essentially not really a playing card, but a themed card. In the case of what's on screen here, there's Maria. What's her name? Maria something. I'm not up on my Castlevania lore anymore. Sorry. My brain's saying Fernandez, but it's Carrie Fernandez. Maria Belnades? I don't remember. Anyways, Maria and Alucard. You guys don't care. And these cards will fall onto the field and they land on top of the marble. And so part of the goal as well is to push these cards off. For me, I just wanted the card just to be like, here's my little souvenir. But you can use the cards to basically get tickets. There's numbers on them. I don't know if the numbers play any role. But I got Alucard when I finally got my card. So essentially you just kind of sit there. You can like adjust the angle at which these marbles shoot onto the field, and then obviously there's the timing aspect too. Timing it with how the pusher pushes it back in and out and stuff like that. I don't want to say it's not a video game, right? We are not looking at a video game here, or maybe I should say, it's not a traditional video game, because ultimately you could make this into a video game, right? There's pachinko games all around, but this really feels like gambling, but instead of getting money, you're getting tickets, right? And, I think most of the thrill comes from, basically getting some sort of payout, when you get it in the spinner thing, and the slot machine goes, and all those kind of dopamine hits you get from there. And one thing that I thought was kind of interesting is almost like a physical aspect as well, because these cards that sit on top of the marbles, they slowly get pushed out. And so as you get further and further to that card getting pushed towards you, there's definitely more and more incentive to just keep playing. And one thing that happened when I was playing this time was the Alucard card got on the very edge of the push out, and I ran out of marbles basically. And so I had to sit there and ask myself, do I want to go load up my Dave or whatever it is, round 1 card? I said Dave & Buster's earlier, I think, with more money to get this card, because otherwise I'm leaving empty-handed. Even though I'm not really leaving empty-handed, obviously I had the experience of playing this game, right? And all these thoughts and feelings I had about it. But I think what was interesting about that was even though sometimes I think about games that pressure you to spend money digitally, and when you can't see how something is working and how something's placed, sometimes it can feel like you're being more directly manipulated, where it's I'm playing a digital slot machine, essentially a digital gotcha machine, right? And the odds for things can feel unfair, right? And there's those manipulations, there's pity pulls and things like that, where it's after a certain number of fails, they're gonna give you a win because we got to keep you on, right? And so it feels like in a digital space, it's a lot more easier to feel like you're being manipulated. And in some ways, I would say these cards getting pushed out and slowly moving towards you feels like a similar manipulation, but it's entirely physical, where it's just the closer and closer it gets, the more willing you are to spend money on this thing. Or at least that's how I felt. And I thought it was like an interesting thing because technically it's not really being controlled by the machine, but obviously it's very much a part of the design of the game kind of thing. So there's really not much more to say about it. I think, compared to coin games, I think a lot of the challenges with um, a game like Castlevania Marble Souls is that the marbles are a lot less predictable in some ways, I feel like, or at least they're maybe a little bit more chaotic, because unlike coin games where things can like a coin will move and like when it hits a wall, it's probably going to fall over or bounce off in certain ways. Marbles feel like obviously there's physics coming to play, but they're a lot harder to understand and predict exactly where they're going to go and why and how they're going to respond to the machine. And coins kind of, I think, have a shorter tail on how, uh, weird there. Oh, hey, look, there's my jeans. I did go ahead and try another game that Konami had put out as well. It's this game called Gold Railroad. It's also a pusher, and it's a coin pusher. And I think I actually really like the aesthetic of this game. It's got these little like cute bunny characters and stuff, and there's this golden train that you're on. And it's got like this Mario Party board. It goes around the Mario Party board. I think there's like different bonuses and stuff like that depending on where it goes. And I think every time there's like these little orange balls, and I think the little orange balls like kind of push you around the stage. And then when those balls come in, you also get another slot machine there. Again, more or less gambling. And it drops this other like orange ball. It's like this machine has a lot more like weird visual gimmicks going on that don't really matter. To be clear, these don't really matter, right? It's like when you push the button to stop the slot machine, what it does is it releases a ball that also moves around. You have no control over the positioning of the ball, no control over anything. It is all just like something that you can't do anything about. So it's like, how much does it really matter when you push the button? I think is kind of up in the air. But it's a game that just like has a lot more visual flair and things like that. So I think it comes off as a lot more appealing. And in a similar way, this game also has cards. It seems like some of these games, I don't know if this is true for the Castlevania one, but there's like a complete set of cards you can get. So on the back of some of these cards for this Gold Railroad game, there's like large form portrait art. So like I said earlier, you are kind of intended to put these cards in the machine and get it turned into tickets and things like that. I just kept the cards, whether I should or not. I don't know. I don't know if this is committing a crime, but it's kind of blown out on screen. Got an a la carte card. So I ended up just keeping the cards as like a what's it called? But I like this game a little bit more, mostly because I think there's a lot more visual flair to it. It feels like there's just a lot more going on. And also, like I mentioned earlier, the coins feel a little bit more predictable, or at least the chaotic nature of them ends a lot sooner. So it feels like I can more easily like figure out where I should be putting things and things like that. But ultimately, with these games, I will say they do just kind of feel like gambling. And, I'm not saying gambling is all bad, but I think anytime you're doing gambling, there's like some level of feeling like, oh, am I really getting my value out of this? And I'd say for the most part, I would say these games are not really worth it. I think I spent like $35 to $40 for maybe like 35 to 40 minutes of play. So like, let's say like $1 per minute of play. And I'll be honest with you, I don't spend a lot of time at American arcades. I mostly spend my time at Japanese arcades when I'm in Japan. And Japanese arcades just seem a lot more affordable, not only because of the yen difference, but also I think that Japanese games are more willing to give you more time. And I think part of that might be because, the way you interact with arcade games in Japan feels a lot more potentially to happen on a day-to-day basis, as you kind of walk around. You have more like walkable cities that you can go and get to an arcade on the way home, right? Versus, when everything's so spread out in America, these kind of trips down to the arcade, I think often can feel like events where you go once. And so they kind of need, I think, maximize the money they get out of you all at once rather than, bleed you over time. In Japan, I think live service games is the thing I compare arcade games to the most. But yeah, I would not really recommend these games, but I thought they were interesting. I think, sometimes I think about like, I would like to better understand how gambling works and like kind of the incentives that come through gambling. But a metal machine, I think, I could be wrong, but I feel like a metal machine feels close enough to gambling that you'll get a lot of similar feelings from it. with hopefully less financial burden. um, I don't know. I think it'd be like, I think part of the thing about like wanting to understand gambling more and like going and actually gambling is like, do you actually end up unintentionally building a gambling habit because you're trying to understand how gambling habits are built? Like something that happens with like Final Fantasy 11 sometimes is like, I will let myself be addicted to it because I want to understand how that addiction works and why it works. And like, if I feel like I'm not actually having fun playing Final Fantasy 11, what is driving me to keep playing Final Fantasy 11? Because I kind of want to know the answer to that. And you know, I feel like at times it can be a very dangerous thing, in terms of how I learn about games. But you know, I don't feel a desire to go back and play these games again, really. So I think I got what I needed. $40 well spent for the knowledge, $40 not well spent for um, the the gameplay experience.